So this is my room. There's some memorabilia here that I've collected in my travels around the world. And my wife is so happy that this stuff is here and not at home anymore. Some guitars that have been significant to me in my career, including my first guitar. It's a 518, strung up with nylon strings, a little slot head. I was 10 years old when I got this. And I wanted to take some lessons. So I was living in New Jersey with my mother. She was working for my other grandfather, who was a physician. And one of his patients was Mr. Conrad. And Mr. Conrad had a music store, and in the evenings, he taught guitar. So I show up with my little case. I come in, he says, "Oh, you brought your guitar." I say, "Yes, Mr. Conrad, I got my guitar for Christmas, and I want to learn some Beatles songs." This is the first display in the museum, and it talks about CF, growing up in Marknerkirchen, working with his father, making furniture in a town where they made a lot of violins. CF took an interest in the guitar. The violin makers had no interest in the guitar, so his father helped him get a job in Vienna, Austria, where he worked with Johann Stauffer and learned how to build Stauffer guitars. And we have some examples of the Stauffer style guitars that he ultimately ended up building in America. And this is one of those guitars. Guitars back then were small. They were called parlor guitars. They were 12 fret, very balanced sounding. Gut string, although occasionally steel string. And this is what CF started to build when he came to America, because that's what he was taught under the tutelage of Johann Stauffer, the father of the Viennese school of guitar design and construction. This handsome gentleman here, Perry Bechtel, came to visit. Perry was a vaudeville banjo player, and he said to my grandfather and his father, "This vaudeville thing is it's coming to an end. I'm too young, and I would say handsome, to retire. I want to switch to the guitar. Unfortunately, every time I pick up a guitar, including Martin guitars, I find them awkward to play. Could you make me a guitar that felt to my left hand like I was playing a banjo?" He left, went on tour. My great-grandfather and grandfather scratched their heads. They may have even said, "Hey, why don't we just throw a banjo neck on a guitar and see what happens?" But I think they realized, well, we've got 6 strings, not 4. What we needed to do was to what we call square off the shoulders. Instead of them having that beautiful curvature that they would on a Spanish-style classic guitar or a Martin guitar in its time, we overbent them on the bending press. We pushed them down, flattened them a little bit. There's actually a very subtle radius there. It's one of those optical illusion things that if you make it perfectly flat, it appears to actually be indented a little bit, so you give it just a little bit of a curve so that your eye, it's just a little trick of the eye. And we came up with this guy. Called it the orchestra model. Perry came to visit, grabbed a hold of it. He said, "Yeah, all right, I get it. You needed room for the other 2 strings, but it's much slimmer. Gave me a couple extra frets here, put a little radius on the fingerboard. I like it, I'll take one." And we thought, you know what? Maybe we're onto something. And so we began to offer the orchestra model with the 14 fret neck. There is one particularly special uke here that I want to talk about because Dick Boak was talking to me about this. This is called the Contour Uke, and it just came back from the Smithsonian. And the reason it was down there is the Smithsonian took a good look at this, and the reason they did is because of all the signatures. The significance of this is that it went with Admiral Byrd on his Arctic expedition, and then came back and was signed by many, many famous people. Smithsonian's going to write an article about it, so stay tuned. Sorry, no pun intended. My family got into the uke business in 1907, and shortly after that there was an exhibit in San Francisco, the Pan-Pacific Exposition, and one of the things they featured was Hawaii, and people went crazy. They went crazy for all things Hawaiian, including Hawaiian music, including Hawaiian musical instruments. The ukulele itself, the origins are traced back to Portugal. It was an instrument indigenous to Portuguese musical culture. It ended up in the Hawaiian Islands with merchant sailors. They were whaling, they would stop in Hawaii, and they left some of their instruments, and the native Hawaiians incorporated that instrument into their native music. After we put an addition on the factory to accommodate the demand, in 1926 we built 14,000 ukuleles. That's at a time when a good year for us in guitars was 6,000 or 8,000. So it was quite a phenomenon. One other really cool uke is the Daisy. And Daisy was my grandmother, and this was a commission. My grandfather commissioned this as a gift for his bride when they were married. And it's a 5, which is the top of the line for Martin ukes, but it's not koa, it's mahogany. And if you can see, it's pretty fancy mahogany. It's got a curl to it. This is Cuban mahogany, back when we used to get mahogany out of Cuba. Pretty cool.